各位朋友，大家晚上好！欢迎各位参加由 Mentoring 导师学院和欧洲导师教练协会 EMCC 联合举办的100场导师技术在线论坛。今天晚上是第33场，由来自美国的 Marcia Reynolds 博士主讲。他今天分享的主题是如何在对话中营造心理安全感，养成3个心理习惯。首先，让我们来认识一下今晚的演讲嘉宾。Marcia 博士，他是组织心理学博士，还有2个硕士学位。他是教练这个职业的先驱性人物，是 ICF 的第5任会长，也是 ICF 大师级教练 MCC。创办了自己的领导力培训与教练公司 Co-Visioning， 他们的业务足迹遍布43个国家。他曾经为一家面临破产的全球化科技公司设计了文化变革计划，结果呢，在3年内，这家公司扭亏为盈，成为当年美国 IPO 中营收最高的公司。同时，他也在美国的一家医疗教练学院担任培训总监。他同时也在亚洲和欧洲的5所学校任教。他也在很多的高校，包括哈佛大学，发表了很多的演讲。有一个比较特别的主题是当今高成就女性在工作场所的独特挑战和需求。至今为止呢，他已经出版了4本畅销书籍，其中有2本呢已经翻译成了中文，大家如果感兴趣可以去找来读一读。今天晚上嘉宾活动的主办方是欧洲导师与教练协会与 Mentoring 导师学院。欧洲导师与教练协会是总部设在比利时布鲁塞尔的，专门为导师与教练提供国际资格认证的非营利性组织。Mentoring 是一家总部位于比利时布鲁塞尔的全球化导师服务咨询公司。我们的业务遍及6大洲35个国家和地区。我们提供的导师技术课程、服务流程标准以及服务团队均获得了欧洲导师与教练协会的专业认证。2019年是 Mentoring 中国第一次把欧洲导师技术引入了中国。那么现在呢，让我们来欢迎 Marcia 博士来分享。Okay, now let's warmly welcome Dr. Marcia.
Hi, I'm Marcia Reynolds, and I was trained and have been coaching and teaching coaching for 27 years. And what I have found all over the world is that people are so concerned about how they coach, what they say, what skills they're using, that they forget that it's even more important the emotions they feel and what they believe about the person that they're coaching that truly makes the difference. So today, I'm going to talk to you about the 3 mental habits that you need to create to truly create that connection that will make the difference for your clients. But I want to look at first why this is important. When you're wanting to create that breakthrough moment, it's even more important what you're feeling. So when we look at coaching, why is it that we even coach? I know many of you mentor, and I'm going to suggest that you consider really learning how to coach to start the conversation before you even move into mentoring. Now, in the late 1980s, I got my second master's degree in learning and adult learning. I was running training departments for tech companies, and I wanted to know, how can I really make the difference when people walk out of my classroom that they will change? And no matter what I did over the next 15 years to improve my training, people would say, "We love your classes." And then they'd go out and they'd try new things. And as soon as they felt awkward, they went back to old behavior. So what I had discovered and in researching this is that brains are slow to change, and that you can't tell people to do things differently and expect that they will. And in fact, when I found out about coaching in 1995, I watched a demonstration and I got very curious. How does this work? This seems to work different than training and mentoring. And that's what inspired me to learn about this new science, neuroscience, and even to go get my doctorate, because I wanted to learn how the brain really learns that will change people's behavior especially when there's emotions involved. Because then what I found was people prefer really to stay stuck, even though they know it's not good for them. But because it's risky and the brain doesn't like you to take risks and wants you to be safe, they stay stuck in old behavior. And this is where coaching comes in. Because the reason I shifted from being a teacher to being a coach was I found that no matter what people said they wanted to do differently, that even if you gave them all the reasons why they should change, information doesn't change behavior. I mean, think about it. Don't you know there should be things you should be doing, but you're not? You know, I worked in healthcare for many years, and there's things that we tell people, if you don't do this, you'll die. And they do it for a week, and then they'd rationalize why they didn't need to do it anymore. You see, we go out looking for the reasons why we continue the bad behavior instead of changing, especially if it feels awkward or uncomfortable, and we say it's just not worth it. And then I love the quote by Einstein where he says, reality is an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. So we create our reality. And so the reality that you're living in this moment is different than mine. How I see the world and how I define it is different. In fact, in coaching, one of the places I start is to make sure we have a shared understanding even of the words they use. Because how they see that word and define it may be different than me. I should never make that assumption that I know. So we start with looking at people's sense of reality, the reality they get stuck in, and especially if they have emotions. You see, all of our beliefs, how I see the trees outside my window and the mountain, I'm defining based on my past. So I make associations from my past experience to define my present moment. I don't see the present as the present. I only see it in relationship to my past experiences. And this is why I can't really tell you what to do and know that it will work, because you see the world in a different way than I do. Even if we live next door to each other all of our lives, you had a different experience of life than I did. And this is why I need to understand your perspective of how you see the world and what you really want. I need to make sure that we both understand this, to coach you to share what's really on your mind so I can know that before I can even move forward. And especially if there's emotions. You see, when we have really strong emotions, then it almost like petrifies the brain. Our emotions hijack our brain and make us confused and doubtful. And then what I call powerlyzed, not just paralyzed, but powerlyzed. We have no power to move forward. So what I found out when I was learning about neuroscience is that when emotions take over, that we need something external, a person outside of us, to question, to reflect even, what I hear you saying, so you can think about your thinking out here. You can't think about your thinking on your own. The whole thing, can I coach myself? No, you can't. It's very difficult to think about your thinking without rationalizing your thinking. But the neuroscientists call this an external thought disruptor, that we don't have free will to make choices because the brain stops us. We need someone outside of us to reflect what we're saying so we can think about it and then ask us questions. So then we can start pulling apart our thoughts to maybe see something else. And that's what coaches are. They're external thought disruptors. They help us see our stories out here, to take them out of our brain and to look at them in a way we can't do for ourselves. So even if you practice mostly mentoring and training, using a coaching approach first can really help people to see through their fear, their doubt, their anger, to be able to have a logical conversation with you, and one where it could lead to committed long-term behavioral change in a way that just telling people what to do doesn't work. You see, when I said that we define everything we see based on our past experiences, it's because what happens is since I was a child, everything that happens then creates a story in my brain. And if I've had a similar experience, I may adapt it to my story, but it's the dominant story that I hold on to. I have to have a hugely emotional experience in my life to actually change my story. Now, my story defines who I am in this moment. If I get promoted and I'm with a whole new leadership team, do I see myself as a strong leader? Or do I see myself as the new person, and why would they listen to me? So the story is, I'm the new person. I've never been here before. So my stories define my identity of who I think I am as a leader, as a teacher, as a coach, as a parent. And it defines my reality. So when we coach people, we have to help them to see their story and how they define who they are. And then maybe you could coach them to see something else. But understand that when we start to help people to see their stories here, that it often creates emotional reactions, that when they see how they may be getting in their way, they may be sad, they may be irritated with themselves, they may doubt that they can change. And so being able to deal with their emotions, we have to help them to feel safe throughout the whole conversation. So our emotions that create that sense of safety, that it's okay. Whatever you see and whatever you say, it's okay. You won't be judged. That's the critical piece in coaching. So in coaching, we help them to see their thinking. I call this being a thinking partner. And that's what I do with people. I've got years of experience teaching leadership, but I have found helping people think is far more powerful than telling them what to do, my brilliant advice. So we reflect first what we hear, what we see, what we notice. When they talk, when they stop and they pause and they look away, when they get very excited, we share their emotional reaction, their shifts, as well as their words. So again, they can hear themselves thinking, they can see themselves react. So they can look at what are the gaps in their logic, the beliefs holding them back, the shoulds people have told them all their lives that maybe don't fit for them anymore. What it is they think they need from people that they're not getting, that they're scared or irritated. We can start to look at how does that impact the present moment. So it's not therapy. It's looking at these things in the brain that are causing them to see and to limit their choices, that if we can bring it forward, it gives them more options to look at. So often what I'm saying to my clients, they'll share with me how they see their challenge. And I'll say, okay, so this is what I hear you saying. And I'll concisely summarize it. I won't parrot back everything, but just the key points. So they feel heard and understood and can start to listen to their thinking. But I also share when I notice that they pause and they look away and maybe they sigh, and I'll ask them, could you share what just occurred in that moment? What were you thinking about? Or if they have hesitation or resistance, I'll share that as well, and ask them, what's behind that? What's going on in your mind? Are you willing to share it with me? But again, their willingness depends on the safety that you create, that they would say, okay, and they'll share it because they know they won't be judged. So you always want to share their emotions. You see, oftentimes we're scared. How many times I've mentored coaches and there was an emotional shift that was profound in the client. And I said, did you not notice that? And they said, yeah, I did. But I thought if I'd say something that it would irritate them or it could disturb the process. And that was just an excuse because the coach was afraid to share the emotion and just stay curious. So when you were talking about that one person you seem to be most irritated, what is it that irritates you about that person? Or when you said, yeah, I know what it is I need to do this and this and this, but it didn't sound like you were fully committed. Is that commitment because you doubt yourself or you really don't think that's the right way forward? So we ask about the emotions they show and what does it mean to them? And remember that even if they cry, we don't jump in to make them feel better. We aren't there to make them feel better. We're there to help them to see better. So when we look at coaching, the difference between coaching and telling and mentoring, and I'm not saying I never do mentoring and telling. I told you I just mentor coaches. But if there's a challenge that they're stuck, I always start with coaching. And then when we can finally move into their openness, their willingness to change, to try new things, then I may offer suggestions or ask permission to offer suggestions and maybe share with them some things that I teach, because then they're open to use the information that I give them. So coaching is called insight-based learning. So I told you that I'm a learning researcher ever since the end of the 1980s. And the degrees that I've achieved, even my doctorate was in psychology, but it was in learning psychology. So when we tell people what to do, we're using the cognitive brain, which is short-term memory, which often they're not going to remember everything you tell them. And when they try to, they'll pull it out and they'll change it and shift it. And, you know, the things we learn during the day that people tell us what we should do, or we read things all over the internet, we hear podcasts, the radio, all of that goes into short-term memory, which is limited capacity. So at night when we sleep, the brain throws out 80% of what we heard and learned about during the day. Even the mentoring advice that you give, we only retain a little bit of it. And usually it's only the stuff we think is really important. There has to be an emotion attached for it to embed into long-term memory. Now, fear-based learning, where you tell people you better do this or else, you know, they'll do it. But what happens, it becomes very permanent behavior. It's lodged in the primal brain. And then you ask them to change, to adapt to this new world, and they can't. So often that saying people don't change is only because they learn by fear in the first place. That makes it difficult for their brain to allow them to change in the future. But coaching is insight-based. It happens in the middle brain. It's the same process as creativity. You know, like when you're thinking of something else and then something pops into your brain and you see something new. It's the same thing with coaching. When I just share with you what you're saying and ask you questions, and you start to see your stories in a different way, that all of a sudden you'll have an insight. And it's often something very simple. Like people often say, why didn't I see that before? But it's just a pop in the frame of the story. It's a different way of seeing things. But once you create that insight, it rewires the brain and becomes permanent learning, which leads to new behavior. So if you're really wanting long-term behavioral change, you want to add a little bit of coaching to your mentoring and your teaching, or fully coach. Because you see, coaching expands the perspective. That ego is that sense of self and how I see the world. But I can help you see beyond how you're framing the world according to you, your beliefs, your rules, who I think I am. I help you reframe that through using coaching. So my question to you, especially if they're hesitating and there's resistance or a struggle, can you give up being the fixer and the one who knows all the answers in order to be the coach? Now, understand this was difficult for me. I ran training departments for 16 years. And so when I got into coaching, I so wanted to tell people what to do because I had so much experience. But even then, when they would say, wow, that's really good advice, did it really change them? And what I have discovered through research is no, it often doesn't. They have to be open to really changing their brain, not just your good ideas, but changing their brain. So to be able to start your conversations with coaching, you have to give up being the one who knows. And the mentor is the one who knows. In mentoring, who does most of the talking? You do. You're telling them the benefit of your experience, your ideas. You know, I can always tell when we first started certifying coaches many years ago at the International Coaching Federation, we needed to certify people in different languages, and we didn't have enough certified coaches in these languages. But just watching people coach, and if I couldn't tell who was the coach and who was the client because of, the coach was talking too much, then I knew they weren't really coaching. So who's doing most of the talking? Are they or are you? Can you give up needing to fix their problems? You know what to do in order to be the coach, at least at the beginning of your conversation. So think about it. I really want you to take some notes. For you, what would make this most difficult? To give up being the one who knows. I really want you to think about this and then take some notes. This might be a good thing to journal on, to really, after this session, to think about, how do I define myself in relation to the people I'm working with? Who am I? Am I the expert? Or am I their thinking partner? And understand there's a power dynamic when you're mentoring and you're the expert and the teacher. You have a bit more power than they do, so they may not feel fully comfortable to open up with you. But if you're their thinking partner and they feel that through your emotions that you bring and your belief that they're smart, they're creative, resourceful, and whole, they're more willing to open up to you. So think about this. Take some notes. What will it take for you to give up knowing, to be curious, to believe in their potential? This is a part of the coaching definition with the International Coach Federation, that they are creative, resourceful, and whole. That's what we're looking for, to believe that and know that if you stay in the coaching mode, they'll get there if you trust the coaching process. So the most important factor, I know this was a lot talking about learning, but it leads up to why you need to develop these 3 mental habits, because you have to create the safety, the sense, I am safe with you. You will not judge me, no matter what I say or what I do or don't do. And the safety leads to trust, that I trust you, that I trust our relationship. So in order to do that, to create this sense of safety, it's the presence that you bring. I always say that coaching, actually any conversation, any leadership conversation, any growth conversation, performance, your effectiveness is going to depend on your ability to deepen your presence, even more important than the words you use, the skills you've developed. So the 3 mental habits are, first, to choose the emotions you feel, before you even go into the conversation. And then to constantly be, subtly aware. What am I feeling right now? Have I shifted? Have I shut down a little? Do I have some tension? And then come back to the emotions you choose. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about aligning the nervous system, your head, your heart, and your gut. There's a lot of research that says when you open your mind with curiosity, your heart with caring, and your gut with courage, they automatically feel safe with you. In the therapy world, they have found that trauma patients, people who have never spoken of their trauma, when the therapist opens their head, heart, and gut, they feel safe and start speaking of their trauma for the first time in their life. But this also means you have to catch and release your judgment. And anytime you think you need to give them advice, you're judging that they're not going to be capable of seeing things and learning on their own. So emotional state. I want you to think about, how do you react when you know the person's uncomfortable, confused, angry? Do you feel you need to jump in and make them feel better? I have been teaching coaching skills in China for, I think, 12 years now. And that's a big thing, that working with my coaching students, their feeling of, I need to make them feel better. I need to ease their pain, but if you do, you're making them weak. You're making them weak. You won't allow them to work through the emotion and come out the other side. So think about, how do you react? Do you back off because you feel awkward? Or do you jump in to make them feel better? And these are the standard reactions to emotions that we want people to calm down, to not worry. Or we get uncomfortable and then we don't know what to say. How many times the coaches I've worked with have said, okay, I'm stuck. I don't know what to say, because their brains locked up because they were uncomfortable. So really learning how to breathe and stay present with whatever they're experiencing as a human being. All emotions are human experiences. Can you just allow that to happen? And so being able to recognize in your own body, when am I having an emotional reaction? It's the little emotions, that little tightness, that will stop us from knowing what it is we need to say and what we need to do. Big emotions of fear and anger we recognize, but it's the little ones that often make the choices for us. So being able to practice throughout your day of really recognizing when you have a little tenseness in your body and breathing through it. And then choosing how you want to feel. This is how you practice staying present and helping people to have that psychological safety where they're willing to open up to you and open up their brain so they can learn and grow. So emotional intelligence, the word intelligence, the root of the word intelligence is choice between. So emotional intelligence is just what emotions are you choosing? So reacting to people when they act or something they say and we're not comfortable with it, that's normal. It's what you do once you notice, oh, look, I'm having a reaction. What can I do with that? How can I shift to feeling something different? That's the skill of choosing your emotional state. So when we say courageously hold the space for their emotions to subside, when we say holding the space, we're talking about the space between you and me. That it's that energy exchange between us, that you feel, they feel that you're comfortable, that they don't feel any fear from you. They don't feel doubt when you're doubting yourself. That if they feel that you're a little uncomfortable, they may want to save you, jump in and protect you. So can you hold that safe space between you and allow them to experience their emotions? Because all emotions have an arc. There's the reaction, the intensity, and then the intensity will subside. And if we just allow them to experience their emotion, as it subsides is when you can ask, would you be willing to share with me what you just experienced? Or what is it you now see? As it subsides is when you can come back in and ask them what's going on. And I'm not talking about suppressing emotions, because when you suppress an emotion, it's still there. It's still sending out energy, even if you don't show it on your face. So suppressing emotions still stays in our body. And if we're really good at suppressing emotions, eventually we get sick, or we go and we take it out at home on the people we love. So suppressing emotions is not a good mental habit. We want to change our emotions, knowing that all emotions radiate energy. So we have to release the emotions, not suppress it. We have to be able to release it by choosing to feel something else. And that's emotional intelligence. So you start by asking yourself, where do I feel emotions? Again, it's good practice to know, where do I feel fear? Where do I feel anger? Is it in your chest, in your stomach, in your shoulders? But in the moment, it doesn't matter what emotion you're feeling. It's just that if you have a point of tension, all emotions will tense up your muscles somewhere. It could even be in your jaw or the back of your neck, or your ears might get red. If you feel a shift in your biology, is there a point of tension, a little bit of tightness or heat? Can you breathe and release the tension? Because then you're open to choosing how you want to feel instead. So we notice, I'm having a feeling. And in the moment, you don't have to know why. That's something you can talk about afterwards. What happened in that moment? What triggered me to feel that way? In the moment, you just want to notice I'm having a feeling and then choose what to feel next. Now, you want to do this before you go into a conversation to choose how you want to feel. And then the practice is to notice anytime you tense up and come back to those feelings. So even before you go into a conversation, you want to recognize, what am I feeling right now? Do I feel energetic or am I tired? Am I irritated from my last conversation? Do I need help in shifting? And so one of the things you can do is to pull out your cell phone, which is going to help you to shift to certain emotions when you look at pictures of your family, of your pets, to choose how you want to feel. So we recognize the point of tension. We ground ourselves by breathing and then focus on how you want to feel. Do you want to feel compassionately curious, calm and courageous? Just you choose one or two words. They become your anchor. You go into the conversation feeling this way, and then anytime you feel a point of tightness, you breathe, release it, ground yourself, and come back to that word or two of how you want to feel. So again, I said, take out your cell phone. And I bet you have pictures of your family, of your pets, of the things that you like to do. That's me coaching there in China. And I see that picture and I remember how lucky I am to work with you all over the world. And I'm so grateful. That's a picture of where I live, that I get to live in this wonderful place. I can see that mountain right outside my window. What helps you to feel gratitude, to feel love? It'll open your heart before you go into your conversation. And then again, choose a keyword. So anytime you feel some tenseness, you come back to feeling caring, compassionate, calm, courageous, whatever it is that you want to feel in that conversation. And then I mentioned to you about opening the nervous system. That's mental habit number 2, that we open the nervous system, our brain, our heart, and our gut. They're fully connected by the vagus nerve. It's actually one organ called the nervous system. It's not a brain and a heart and a gut that's separate. They're fully connected. And actually, the heart and the gut are always talking to the brain, but we don't hear it because the brain then has to translate it to the language you understand. But if we shut down our brain, we can hear our heart. What is my heart saying to me right now? What is my gut saying to me? Oftentimes when I work with coaches, they tell me, I'm good at opening my heart, but not my gut. Having courage is tough to share something that is direct, that I know may be a challenge to them, but they need to hear it. It's okay. You're the one they trust to share with them those things, to help them see how they're getting in their own way and to move forward. This is how we create full body presence that really gives them that sense of psychological safety. So we open our brain with our curiosity. We open our heart with our compassion, our care, our love. And we open our gut by recalling a time in our life when we stood up or spoke up in spite of our fear, and we know what courage feels like. So anytime you're a little uncomfortable with sharing something, you activate your gut. So you have the courage to share it, I'm often told, in Asia, and especially there in China, we're not direct. I'm not asking you to confront. I'm just asking you to share what you hear them say and what they're experiencing. So that's really just an excuse for your fear. Can you be courageous enough just to say, so this is what I hear you saying. Am I correct? This is what I'm noticing you're experiencing. What do you think? To have the courage to do that is so helpful to them. So the third habit, mental habit number 3, is to catch and release your judgment. So please know that we're all judgy people, that the brain judges every room you walk into. The brain is saying, is this safe? Is this safe for me? The brain wants to keep you safe. The safety is even more important than being smart to the brain. Its primary reason for existing is to keep you safe and alive. So judgment is natural, that we have a little tension. And it's one of the reasons I love teaching around the world, because oftentimes people say things that trigger my value system that I grew up with, that I have to go, oh, I'm judging. But it doesn't matter right now. Can I let it go? You know, that's one of the things I love about teaching in China, because oftentimes when I'm coaching people, they'll say things that, again, are different than my life experience, which helps me to practice releasing judgment. So your brain is always saying, this is right or wrong, or this is safe, or this is going to turn out badly. You know, just to be able to quiet that, to come back to being present, to caring about the person in front of you, of shutting your brain down, releasing the tension, so you maintain the safety so they don't feel judged, which again, they're going to sense feelings even more than your words. So are you willing to work on this? One of the things I suggest is to go places you know your judgment will be triggered. You know, for me, it's the grocery store or the airport or my sister. And how many times I say that, people say, I have a sister like that. And she is my teacher, because she helps me recognize when I have that judgment about what she's saying, and just come back and say, she's my sister. Can I just let it go? This is good practice all day long. So you can do this when you're coaching or you're mentoring. So to maintain psychological safety, they can't fear they will be judged by you. And again, judgment is an emotion, so they're going to feel the energy of your judgment, even more so than your words. The energy of the emotion, you know, as humans, we have to pick up emotions because that's what keeps us safe. So we're really good at picking up people's emotions, even when they're not speaking them. So we have to choose our emotions, to release our judgment and choose what we want to feel about them. So notice, where do you feel your judgment? Remembering it's an emotional reaction. It's tightness in your body like all the other emotions. And underneath it are your biases, your needs, your impulses. Can you notice that point of tension and to return to feeling compassionately curious? I love this quote that when you feel that you have to provoke or convince or tell people what to do, can you just return to that feeling of, I am here for you. I am here for you. I know you're a smart person, that if we just kind of look at the way you're thinking, that maybe you can see beyond it on your own, or at least open up to really engaging with the advice that I will share with you and taking it in, being open to learning and trying something new and sticking with it even when it's awkward. So again, you deliberately go to places that will trigger your judgment. Notice, practice releasing judgment. It's such good practice for life in all of your conversations, to notice and to release your judgment and come back to being here for you. So the last thing I always like to share is the concept of beginner's mind, which I learned many years ago in traveling to Asia for the semiconductor company I work for, that the beginner's mind is letting go of being the expert. So I can just be here with you and believe that anything can happen in this moment. Because if I already know how you're going to act, if I already know what you're going to say, then nothing else can occur. But if I can be open that maybe you're going to be different today and say different things and see things in a different way, that you will be able to go beyond your own limitations. So in the beginner's minds, there's many possibilities. But if I'm the expert and I already know what you should do, then there are few. So can you come into your conversations, whether it's coaching or mentoring or teaching, with an attitude of openness, of eagerness, and a lack of preconceptions that I already know. Whoops. So the key is relax into your curiosity, your compassionate curiosity. So this is the exercise. I know you'll have these slides that I would love for you to work with your colleagues to practice. You know, when I teach coaching skills to leaders to use a coaching approach, I have them do just this exercise for 5 minutes, and then they switch just to really listen and share and not give advice, to recognize their judgment, to appreciate the experience the person is having. That's just who they are right now. Then use reflection to summarize what I hear, what I see, what I notice. Then I can ask them questions about it so they can deeply think about their thinking. Try this out, practice it. Because remember what I said earlier, and I've truly learned this to be true. Mastery, coaching mastery, mentoring mastery, it's the deepening of presence, of fully being present so people feel safe and open with you, not saying the perfect thing, the perfection of your skill. They want you to be present, not perfect. So I know that at Create Coaching, where I do my teaching, that they have my Discomfort Zone book, dealing with difficult conversations, that's in Chinese. And they're working with my publisher to translate Coach the Person as well, so you can keep in touch with them and see when that comes out. That's in its 7th printing. It's doing well all over the world. So these are resources for you to have. And I thank you, and I look forward to your questions. See you soon.
And now is the Q&A time. There are questions from the audience from many platforms, and my colleagues are collecting them. We'll collect them put them in the chat box.
Okay.
现在是问答环节，大家有问题的话可以提问。我们 Zoom 里面的朋友也可以直接问，也可以把问题放在聊天框里。而我们其他的朋友也可以把问题反馈给我们的工作人员，由我们的工作人员收集来问到 Marcia 博士。
So I will be in China the first week of June to teach for CCC coaching. I'll be there, and they're having a big party that weekend. So maybe some people can come.
Yes, great. I think we will spread the news to the coaching community. Actually, when people hear you will be delivers the webinar, and a lot of coaches they say that, oh wow, I will attend this webinar. Yes, a lot of coaches know you in China.
I know, it's great. I'm so happy to be able to come back live. Yeah.
Hi, doctor. Here is a question. It says, I always feel a tightness on my shoulders. I tried to relax through breathing, but failed. How does breathing really work?
So it's not about breathing here. You would need to breathe into your shoulders, and physically release the tension. Mentally you have to do that. Are you translating that or?
那这个问题呢，是我经常觉得自己的肩膀有紧绷感，然后我也试着可能通过深呼吸来去放松，但是没有成功。那这个就您刚才提到的这个呼吸，它到底就是怎么能帮我们可能放松这样？那这个呼吸呢，它更多的其实不是说外在的，只是身体上的放松，它更多的是你内在的心理上的全然的放松。
It's also important to ask yourself, what's causing the tension? Is it just you're tired, or are you afraid? And if you're afraid, can you choose to feel something else? Can you choose to feel trust, love, compassion, gratitude? Because that will release the tension. You have to shift your emotion in order to shift your body.
那你要首先问自己一个问题，就是你的这种紧绷感到底是因为什么造成的？是因为你太疲劳了，还是说因为你感到害怕？那这个时候你需要能够去转移自己的情绪，你可以去让自己去有其他的感受，你可以去感受信任，去感受爱，感受你可能心里的一个感激之情。通过这种方式 然后让自己的这种紧绷感得到释放。
Shift, quit thinking, and focus on feeling.
对，更多的这个是转移你的自己的想法，它更多的是从你的这个思维层面来做一个转移。朋友们还有其他的问题吗
Yeah, I have a question. Hello?
？Yes,您 continue.
Yeah, hello, Dr. Reynolds. Yes. I noticed your speaking tone, the speed and the pitch are fluctuating when you deliver your speech. So I was wondering, did you train your speaking deliberately? If yes, how long it takes for training? Yeah, my question in Chinese is, 在那个博士的讲座之中，我注意到他说话的语气、他的速度、他的音调都是，所以我想知道，刻意在训练自己说话，还是一种个人的风格是刻意在训练的话，多久训练成这样非常的柔和和非常的平和？
And I've kind of always done that because I think as I'm speaking, so it comes out in my voice.
是因为就是我在发言的时候，因为我常常是就是发自自己内心的感受，我更多的是通过自己的感受，然后自然而然的就发出自己的声音。就像我们今天讲座里经常提到的，就是我们作为教练，或者说我们作为领导者，我们的这个感受其实是比很多的技能都是更重要的。
But the day I signed up for coaching school, 1995, I also signed up being a public speaker with acting coaches and storytelling experts to be on the stage. And then it's required that you shift and I forget when I'm on Zoom that I'm not on the stage.
还有一个就是我在之前也报过这样的培训课程，在1995年的时候，那个时候我是报名参加了这个教练学校，上了教练的课程。然后呢，我也报名参加过如何做公共演讲课程，这个公共演讲的课程。那里面他会教很多的东西，包括比如说讲故事的技能。那更多的是呢，就是在你任何时候，你把自己可能想象成自己在一个舞台上，就像我现在虽然是在 Zoom 里做演讲，但是我依然觉得自己好像在舞台上那样自如，能够随时的去转换自己的情绪。
In classes help me to be very express what I'm feeling. So it's improv acting that really helped.
Sorry, Dr. Marcia, and I can't hear your words. Do you speak closer to the microphone?
No, so let me see
The
if I
voice
can
is
change.
not clear.
Oh, the audio didn't work. That should be better, yeah? Is that
A
better?
little bit better.
Because, yeah, it shows, wait a second. Is that better?
Yeah, better now. Yeah.
Okay, now I can't hear you. Okay, that
Yeah,
should work.
Okay. It's
Okay.
okay now. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I took improvisational acting, not comedy, but acting for 2 years to be more expressive on the stage, which translates to Zoom.
那我同时呢，也是就是做了这个即兴创作的表演，大概有2年的时间，然后也是通过这种方式让自己的表达能力得到了很大的提高。
Okay, another question?
好的，那第3个问题，我们哪位朋友就是要提问的？
This is Michelle, doctor. Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, yeah. My side showing the slow running on the camera. Yeah, thank you for the great sharing. And in your sharing, there's a word called psychological safety. Could you please share something more? What are the key elements in the psychological safety?
Okay.
Thank you.
People will not be open and vulnerable with you if they don't feel safe that they won't be judged. Psychological safety is you won't judge me.
3个问题呢
anything
是
else?
说
Wait, let her translate, please.
Yeah. 3个问题是关于我们就是博士刚刚提到了一个关键词叫做心理安全。 那这个心理安全它有哪些关键的要素？首先呢，如果就是你的客户学员，他如果就是你面前没有感到足够的安全感，他感觉到好像自己随时会被评判，那他可能就不能跟你敞开心扉，然后跟你坦诚的对话。
Google did a study on their high-performing teams to see what did they do that was the same to be the best. And they found no similarity in actions, but that the best teams all said, I feel totally safe with my teammates, that I can say anything and I won't be judged. So you have to develop, and how you use your presence is what helps people feel safe, not your words. And that's why the 3 mental habits are important to practice.
Thank you very much. It's very helpful.
谷歌呢曾经也做过一项研究，就是关于那些高绩效的团队，就是他们就是如何做到，就是能够做到如此好的成绩。那他们之间呢，是不是有什么就是行动上有没有什么相似性？那最后就是在行动上其实并没有什么相似性。那些表现最好的团队呢，他们往往就是有一个特征，他们团队的成员在一起工作的时候都感觉特别安全，大家相互之间可以自由的发言，可以想分享什么就可以分享什么，因为他们一旦发言了，就不会有一种心理负担，觉得啊，我可能说的可能有点问题，不太好，可能被别人评价啊怎么样的。所以在我们就是比如说在做教练的时候，我们面对我们的客户的时候，我们更多的并不是通过我们的话语，而是说我们一个场域，在这个场域里，我们让对方感到一个足够的安全。所以这也是为什么我在强调我们需要去练习那3个心理习惯。Doctor, there is a question in the chat box. Sometimes it is a little hard for us to realize what our emotion really
I read
is.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to translate the question to Chinese, you can, and then I'll answer it.
那就是有时候这个问题是有时候我们可能对我们来说有点难，就是去意识到我们的真正的情绪是什么。因为那这样的在这种情况下，我们如何能够快速的转变我们的状态，让自己就感到维持一种平和感？博士能不能跟我们分享一些故事？
So in the moment that you're mentoring or coaching, it doesn't matter that you know what you're feeling. You just know that you're not fully open. Something is tightening up your throat, your chest, your stomach. So you have to release the tension and again, choose something that you want to feel. So you don't have to know what it is, but choose what you want instead, whether, it's fear or impatience. It's stopping you from being fully open and present. So what do you want to feel? Again, compassion, gratitude, love, courage. Choose.
那这个时候其实对我们来说，我们是不管有什么样的感受和情绪，其实并不那么重要，因为我们可能有时候感觉到身体上有些紧绷感，可能我们的喉咙可能比较发紧，我们的胸腔可能就呼吸比较困难，或者说我们其他的地方身体部位感觉不太舒服。那这个时候我们需要的是释放自己的情绪，比起你去想我现在情绪到底是什么，更重要的是你要去选择我现在想拥有什么样的感受，我现在希望自己是充满爱，还是充满感激，充满比如说同理心，具备了足够的勇气。最重要的是你想拥有什么样的感受，然后去做这样的选择，就像我们刚才说的第1个心理习惯，选择自己的情绪。
And then the practice is to set an alarm on your phone to go off 3 times a day for 2 weeks and just ask yourself, what do I think I'm feeling? And what do I want to feel instead? And practice shifting your emotions, choosing what you want to feel and shifting. So it's a mental habit that takes time, but just start noticing, what am I feeling and why am I feeling that way? Can I choose to feel something different?
有一个可以做一个练习，就大家比如说可以自己设定一个闹钟，就是在 2周的时间里，你每天大概可能有3次时间让自己停下来，去思考2个问题。首先是我觉得自己现在的感受是怎么样的，那第2个问题是我希望自己现在拥有什么样的感受。那养成这样的习惯也确实需要时间，那我们就是通过这样刻意的练习，让自己学会去转换自己的情绪。因为首先你知道自己为什么可能会有这种感受，但是你在想我是否可以选择其他的感受，你做这样刻意的情绪的转换。
Okay, so I think that's it. Yeah, are we at time?
Yes. And I think that's all for today's webinar. Thank you, Dr. Marcia. Thank you for your great sharing, and thank you for getting up so early. And
Okay.
looking forward to your coming to China.
Yes, I hope to meet some of you in June. That would be
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes, looking forward to that. And I
Okay.
will share my slides, and we will want the feedback from the audience.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your time to attend our webinar, and we hope to get your feedback. 感谢大家花时间参加我们今天的讲座，我们也希望得到大家的反馈。然后大家可以扫下方的2维码，留下大家对本次讲座的宝贵意见。那这里我们也做一下下期的讲座预告，是来自德国的 Kirsten 女士。那她是 EMCC 认证的大师级教练督导，也是 ICF 认证的大师级教练 MCC， 同时也是 ICF 德国分会的前任会长。他还创始了 Solutions Academy。那他是对督导是有非常深厚的心得的，所以他下一期跟我们分享的主题就是关于督导是如何去聚焦解决方案的。那时间是在3月2号的晚间6点到7点。那感兴趣的朋友可以扫右方的2维码报名。后我们想跟大家分享一下，是我们今年在9月3号到5号在瑞士的达沃斯举办的第2届全球组织运行技能管理论坛。那想到时候参与的朋友们或者是感兴趣的朋友们，可以点击右方的我们的官方网址，有3w.GO-TKM.org， 还有了解更多的信息。好，非常感谢大家参与今天的讲座，今天的讲座就到这里。好，各位晚安。